The views and opinions expressed by the host and the guests are solely their individual opinions and does not reflect the opinions of the Cannabis Network. Viewers be advised.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on.
Welcome to Yo Rants Oversized Load. I'm your host, Yo, the Herbal Trucker, ready to steer you through another episode filled with deep dives and real talk on plant medicine and more. Today's episode is more than just a conversation. It's an exploration of stories and voices that often don't get a spotlight they deserve. We're here to dig deep, share insights, and maybe even challenge a few perspectives along the way. This journey is all about interaction and engagement. So get comfy, open your mind, and let's embark on an enlightening and inspiring ride together. And remember to keep up with our latest episodes and updates. Follow the Cannabis Network at Cannabis and me at Herbal Trucker and at Yo Rants 101 on all social media platforms. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and get to our upcoming guest. Is Chelsea Breann. Let me go ahead and get it up here. Hold up, did I click the wrong thing? Of course I did. We're going to get this thing together. Here we go. Let's introduce our special guest, Chelsea Breann. She's not just an advocate for plant medicine. She's a pioneer in the field. Hailing from California, Chelsea has dedicated more than a decade to advocating for cannabis with a strong focus on medicinal benefits, particularly for mental health and sobriety. Chelsea's expertise and passion are now fueling her efforts to enhance the cannabis industry in Georgia, striving for a safer and more accessible experience for all. So sit back, relax, and join us as we delve into Chelsea's inspiring journey in this world of plant medicine. You're listening to Yo Rants Oversized Load, where every conversation is more than just talk. Let's get rolling. All right. Hey, Chelsea, how are you? Okay, I think you're muted. Can you hear me? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
I was just saying, thanks for such a great introduction. Talk about like imposter syndrome. I'm like, who's she talking about? That sounds awesome. And then I realized you were talking about me.
I'm just so glad that you were able to join us because I know we were supposed to do this last year, but you know, with the end of the year, holidays, scheduling, appointments, and it was just bananas.
Life happens.
I know it. I know it. But yeah, let's go ahead and delve on into this. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into plant medicine?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, since I was very, very young, I've always been very into just nature and earth and what they, what nature just gives us in general. I started consuming what I thought was recreationally in high school and didn't realize until later on in my life that I'd like always been a medical patient, as I think most people are, because I was self-medicating for things that I didn't even understand at the time. And what really, really got me diving in super deep was about 7 years ago, I quit drinking. And when I quit drinking, I kind of unpickled and started having all kinds of issues from my autoimmune disease, including I found out I was born with fatty liver disease. And so drinking had not helped it. And, I was really hard in the sobriety programs. I had the sponsor, I had the whole thing. And then doctors told me like, okay, well, there's nothing we can do for your autoimmune disease, but here's some pain meds, here's some narcotics. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not a doctor. but I don't know that narcotics and liver disease sound like a good idea to me. So
Yeah.
it just made no sense to me. And they
Yeah.
basically just told me there's nothing we can do. Here's some pills. And so I knew that that wasn't the truth. You know, I'd always studied herbalism and plants and things like that. I had been making tinctures and topicals for a really long time and just try to, you know, be as healthy as possible. And
Hmm.
um, through all of that, I decided that I was going to start smoking cannabis again because I know that cannabis and CBD could really help, especially with liver disease.
Okay.
So I told my sponsor that I was going to start consuming cannabis again for medicine, and she fired me. And
Oh.
so, yeah, it was very abrupt and it kind of broke me, but it also opened me up into a world of finding other like-minded people that see that not only spiritually does cannabis help with mental health and sobriety, because all sobriety issues are mental health based, but it
Mhm.
also, you know, helps with the physiological effects of detoxing, and scientifically is shown that is actually a, you know, an exit cure, not an entrance drug like we've been taught for so long. And so
Yeah.
I just really dove deeper into that and kind of built a platform around pissing off people in the traditional you know, sobriety world by
Yeah.
saying that, hey, not this type of sober living is not necessarily what's going to work for everybody. You know, this isn't a
That's
one size fits all program, especially because, like I said, I think all sobriety issues are mental health based in one way or another, be it trauma or PTSD or, you know, bad situations or autism or ADHD
yeah.
or anything, you know. So we're all just trying to self-medicate, and unfortunately, alcohol and harder drugs have been made more available to us than plant medicines that can actually help us and help, you know, put our bodies back into homeostasis. So I just, about, you know, 7 years ago, started diving in even deeper, started really studying and talking more about it, and just kind of added that on to, you know, a lifetime pretty much of being a consumer and cultivating. And oh god, the list of things that I have done allegedly um
I
in my career in this space is pretty dashed, you know, from the traditional market of doing edibles and walking into medical dispensaries with a duffel bag full of edibles that I made in my own kitchen, and
Oh, wow.
to, you know, working as operations manager with a partnership for a full sun outdoor grow, completely organic up in southern Humboldt. And then finding my way to Georgia and just kind of coming here like, oh, well, I'm not going to work in the cannabis space anymore. It's just, I'm exhausted. It's too much. And
Mhm.
then it just took me all of like 4 months of being here to, you know, throw a 420 event, which is where we
Yeah,
met. And then it's
exactly.
just kind of been off and running again. You know, I didn't know why I came to Georgia, but I think I'm supposed to be here. So that's just a little bit about me.
Now we're glad that you're here because last year was a wonderful event because that was like one of our first events that we actually went out as the our nonprofit, not, you know, this particular company, but
Mhm.
nonprofit to come out there to actually speak as from a patient's point of view, you know? And it was nice. I mean, that whole area down there in Macon is just it was so peaceful, and it gave you that hippie vibe. I guess I felt like I went back in time, and it's like one side, okay, you have some apartments or whatever, but as soon as you cross over into what's the place called again? I forgot.
It was called Society Garden, and it's in the Ingleside historic neighborhood. So it's a just outside of the downtown area.
Oh my God. It was whew, it was nice, and it's some things that we did miss out there, but like I said, it was great. And like with the upcoming potential legislation from the DEA about the descheduling or whatever, how do you think that's going to really affect the traditional market, you know, cuz I'm just like, you know, you don't see I know what I see, but yeah, I want to hear your perspective. So yeah, tell me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay. it just needs to be descheduled as a whole. First of all, I just want to say that,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no reason the government should be, holding on this tightly to a plant, except for the fact that it heals people. So that's step one. But the rescheduling to Schedule 3, right? That puts it in the same category as ketamine,
Mm-hmm.
Tylenol, codeine. So all that's going to do, in my opinion, is just open the doors for large pharmaceutical companies who already hold patents on cannabinoids within the plant to
Yes.
step in and take over. I truly think it's going to mean less access for people and more stringent regulations.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, the state will still have the ability to kind of govern how the adult use market goes. But if you have large pharmaceutical companies with endless deep pockets controlling certain cannabinoids, that leaves a very limited amount of availability for other people to try to do things without having to pay even more taxes than what they're already paying because they don't own the patent on it. And then I think that as far, when they do that, it's going to open the door for tobacco companies to step in and take over
Mm-hmm.
the hemp side of it, the lower quality, lower grade things, and then anything medical pharmaceutical grade is going to be controlled by big pharma. I think this is why they've been dragging their feet so long, so they could figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah, I
Kind of
agree.
letting the states do what they're going to do to see like where the holes are and what they can do to best capitalize off this, because that's really all this is. It's just a money game. It's has nothing to do with the protection of the patients or the safety of people. If that was the case, fentanyl wouldn't be running rampant through our communities, nationwide. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, but they're not super worried about that, but they're super worried about the guy walking down the street smoking a joint, not bothering anybody.
Yeah, and basically, I do believe, in my opinion, the reason why cannabis is illegal the way it
Mhm.
is now is because it brings people together. Because I found when I started using cannabis and hemp products that my whole psyche had pretty much changed, because some of the individuals that I thought I would never understand or ever work with, I'm able to work with them. I mean, I see things in different light. I mean, I'm able to look beyond the things that a lot of people just see what it is. I think it brings unity, and I know a lot of times these big elites are making more money from division,
Oh yeah.
and conflicts. And so that could be, whether it's a conspiracy theory or not, that could be a reason why, this plant is the way it is. Cause what are the reasons you think outside? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and stick on my questions because I was about to have that moment.
Oh, that's okay. That's how our conversations always develop.
I know it. I'm just like, okay, I'm trying to stay on track because I'm just working, trying to make sure I'm staying on track. But but as far as your advocacy, let's move on to that. I know you have an insight on the traditional market and also the legal market, but as far as an influence and educator, what have you been what have been some of the stumbling blocks you may have encountered along the way?
Oh my gosh. I
I
mean,
mean,
the easier question would be to ask what were some of the best positive hurdles that I've reached,
okay,
because it's constant stumbling blocks in this industry. It's
gotcha.
Well, for one thing, it's a developing industry. So in business, just at a business level, a developing industry is a shit show on a good day.
Okay.
So there's that. The government's always changing taxes. You've got the federal legalities of it. You've got the local and state legalities. You've got constant tax rises and hikes. You've got voting, legislation changes, packaging changes, all of these things within the industry. And so that makes it just a constant changer. And you have to be really hard on top of that. But for me, one of the hardest things that I've seen within this industry is the greed, the level of greed that is coming
Oh
into
my
this and
God.
coming from people. People using terms like "you're gonna get rich in the green rush," which is like, just disclaimer: green rush is not real. If you hear someone use the term green rush, turn around and run the opposite way, because it's a Ponzi scheme. Like, just flat out. Like, I changed
Yeah.
my mind. Somebody please change my mind. But no one has yet. um, And then just to see, you know, and this kind of touches on where you just veered off of and decided not to go down that route before, is that the just, you know, the blatant and systemic racism that is so, that's been like the root of this prohibition in the first place,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, is still so rampant. And it is very sad to see, you know, there needs to be equality across the board. There needs to be all of these changes in access. We need to, as states, legalize and decriminalize, you know, remove these cannabis offenses, stop removing men from the home, stop breaking families up, stop fining people and looking for a reason. You know, you pull somebody over and they smell like weed, so then all of a sudden 45 minutes later you're putting them in the back of the car because you dig, and then you maybe find something. And like, just let people be and stop trying to continue to keep certain communities and minorities down, you know, like for your own well, you know, your own personal agendas. And that's really what the root of this, well, not really the root of prohibition, but what they used as a fear tactic is, you know, the Chinamen, the black men, the brown men, the Hispanics, they're all going to come in and they're going to give your daughters the devil's lettuce, and then she's going to get pregnant immediately and then jump out a window and die. Like, that is, I don't know if you've ever seen Reefer Madness, but that's essentially the whole movie, you know. And that was not meant to be a cult classic movie like it is. That was meant to be like a public service announcement to people. And that's the funniest part about it. They thought they were really doing something. And I don't know what the hell they were smoking, but I have never smoked weed that has made me act that way ever in my life.
I know. I mean, to actually sit there and watch it, because I know me and my wife, we were sitting there watching it, and it was hilarious.
It's great.
I mean, that should just be like an open screening somewhere. We should just have something together and just
wait till
just have a watch party. Oh, I got okay. We'll talk about that later on, because I know you can't wait to share that little insight. So I mean,
but it's hilarious. Like, I have never been, you know, sitting around smoking with somebody and they're like in the corner, like, like, unless they were smoking something that definitely was not plant-based. Ever in my life. Never. I don't. But
I know it, because I'm just like that. That's kind of like with these the testing that, you know, I know we had talked earlier about some of the issues going on here in Georgia when it comes to medical cannabis patients, their medical cannabis cards. I know I just jumped all the way over there, but you know, I'm just going off of, they define that as a public service announcement, just like with this special testing that the police officers are able to distinguish whether or not if the person is intoxicated with THC. You know, it's a subjective
by
test.
that little like mouth swab thing where he was like,
not just the mouth swab, but actually a video just distinguished by the eyes. Because, like, you know, it's a I'm looking at the name. Hold on, because I know
ridiculous.
Yes, it is called it's a drug recognition expert program, and they're teaching these classes here. I have a whole string of classes lined up down at GSP down there in for the Georgia State Patrol, or all law enforcement officers can go get tested. You know, can learn this training to ruin people's lives. That's a subjective test. How can you tell me whether or not if I'm intoxicated by looking at me?
I know people who have thyroid issues, so they look more stoned than I do, and they don't even consume. But because of their thyroid issues, their eyes tend to stick out a little bit more, which makes their eyelids go lower.
Exactly. So they're going ahead and defining this test as is for them to go ahead and determine, okay, you're intoxicated with THC. And with a lot of people in the income and not being able to afford an attorney, they're having to deal with a public defender. And what the defender going to do? They're going to plead them out.
Yeah, because that's pretty much all they've got.
So like I said, it's crazy, but this is what's coming up, and this is what I'm seeing because that's part of the
Well,
bill that. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, how do you define intoxication any differently than it's always been? If this was the standard for identifying drug intoxication, why is it just now being taught? Why is this just coming in because of cannabis legalization? People have been smoking cannabis the
Mm-hmm.
whole time. No one has stopped. I've had interaction with police where I was high and they were just like, "All right, ma'am, here's your speeding ticket." You know what I mean? Like, how do you know if someone is intoxicated? And how do you know if it's weed? How do you not know if they're having a panic attack,
Exactly.
if they just got done crying, if
Mm-hmm.
they just got their ass kicked, if they are
Mm-hmm.
sick, if they have a cold, a sinus infection, allergies? When my allergies pick up, I look high, and I don't even look high when I am high.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, how is that a definitive thing? That's just as stupid as asking a drunk person to say that the alphabet backwards. I can't say that shit sober, and I can't stand on one foot snark ass sober. So how is that? It's just ridiculous. Who is coming up with these ideas? It's like they walk into a preschool and they're like, "What would you think a drunk person looks like?" And they're like, "Whoa!" And they're like, "Done." That's how we train people. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense to me, because they're just like, there's got to be somebody that's smarter than that.
I
There's really got
know
to be
it.
somebody in there that's smarter than that. Don't they get paid to put these training programs together?
Yeah, and I'm just like, why wouldn't they
Who
do
signed
further
off on that?
studies? I don't know. The DEA signed off on it,
Well,
and
that explains everything.
it's actually, I'm gonna share my screen because actually there's an attorney that's challenging this.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's actually challenging this. Let me see if I can pull this
good.
up.
Somebody needs to, because this is just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
let's see. Yeah, this attorney right here, he's actually challenging this. And it needs to be more testing before they go ahead and say, "Hey, you're intoxicated with cannabis." You
Yeah,
know,
because
and
that's just
especially.
opening up the door for corruption, and
Mhm.
for discrimination and minority targeting and so many other
Mhm.
things that, like, let's be real, we don't need any more of that. There's enough.
Mhm.
There is enough. We don't need more. Stop trying to freaking get you guys yourself a bunch of, like, money through your for-profit prison systems and
Exactly.
all of these things that they're doing. Like, stop it.
And just like that sheriff over in Louisiana
My
long
God.
time ago, I can't find the video right now, but basically saying, we can't let go of these trustees. We need to be able to run our prisons,
Yeah,
you
they're the
know?
best workers. The
So,
low leveled offenders are the best workers, was, I believe, what he said. Like, first of all, sir, that's not what they're there for.
yeah.
They're there to serve their time, get rehabilitation, move on with their lives. The fact that you guys are keeping them there, again, what's the point? Like, what is the point of that? But like he said, blatantly said, they can't run their prison system, which means he doesn't get a salary if they don't have all of the levels of criminals in
Yeah.
there to make them the highest profit.
So that is really and truly crazy because I remember, back in my day when I was in the prison system and the trustees and stuff like that, working the outside detail. The
Mm-hmm.
outside details consisted of these state buildings. You have the Georgia State Patrol. You have different offices that they had the offenders with, I guess, low minimum classification, trustee status to go
Mm-hmm.
outside. So basically, they were able to have slave labor to come in to clean up and
Yep.
do whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's sad, and
Very
it's
sad.
like it's cutting into the bottom line. So they say, well, no, it's not for profit. Yes, it's for profit for the individual, for the warden, for the commissioners, for those who are deemed to make money from it, like the ones who get the contracts and stuff like that, as far as the private prisons. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to remember that they removed the private prisons here in Georgia. Um, I can't remember because I know it was a bunch of them that popped up, but it's
Yeah.
a it's a crumbling infrastructure here now for the prison system, and it's a lot of things going on that needs to be addressed before you have non-violent you know convictions of
Yeah.
cannabis getting locked up and having to go to prison with these conditions that's going on now. People getting murdered in the prisons, you
Yeah.
know and what are they doing about that? Why
Nothing.
they focus on cannabis? Find out why you can't hold on to a correctional officer. Pay the correctional officers more money so you don't have to worry about them
Or
taking the
that you could get
underhand
positively trained, like
Yes.
properly trained corrections officers and
Hmm.
not some dude off the street that couldn't make it in the police force.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I'm gonna tell you, the training is pretty good. The thing about it is the pay. Because when I left the prison was like 97. I think I was making 26.5. And by the time the next year I just had quit, and I came and I started driving trucks. I had made over 52,000 my first year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, if they pay the officers more, you're gonna get a better quality of candidate,
Hmm.
over, require a little bit more,
Yeah.
I
Instead
mean,
of Billy Bob over here, who's got a God complex and is out there
yeah,
trying to like mess with people and yeah, no,
yeah, but like I
it's
said,
ridiculous.
but they need to fix, the prison complex, period, point blank.
Hmm.
They need to adjust that matter at hand, because that's criminal in itself, you
Yeah.
know,
Just
and
because someone is in the prison system does not give you the right to work them to the bone and
mhm,
use them as free labor, um and then charge them for being there, because yeah, like prisoners get paid very
mm,
next to nothing, um in a lot of cases nothing, because it's part of their work release.
yeah,
But yet when you come out of prison, those fines that you have towards the prison, the fines that you have towards your court fees and all of these different things, like you're essentially paying to be there through your fines and through
mm,
all of these things that they charge you, and then through your commissary. They're making money at like every corner instead of offering rehabilitation and resources.
mhm,
Like people are constantly screaming about the decriminalization of crime in other countries and different places, but what they're offering instead of criminalizing people is rehabilitation,
yeah,
community support, job placement, training, like a lot of different options that encourages people to get out of that mentality of crime, because most crime is committed because there's not a lot of other options. There's either a lack of
mhm,
money, a lack of availability, and people are doing what they have to do in order to survive in the environment that they have been kept in or
mhm.
suppressed into through just the way that the especially the United States society is set up. And it's just it's unacceptable. It's disgusting.
It is, and I guess, like I say, the elite, conspiracy theory, whatever, just whoever is pulling the strings, the puppet master, whatever. This
Yeah.
is what this all was designed to do.
Mhm.
It was designed to do this, to keep us down. So I guess we're just like entertainment for them,
Yeah, just
and
pawns in the game.
yeah, so we just have to just sit here and stay tuned in and see what happens next. So,
Right.
but
Well, that's why I live in the middle of nowhere in the woods on a, you
uh,
know,
and it's so,
piece of
I'm just
property.
saying, it is so peaceful that, I mean, I can't just get over the fact of how peaceful it is. I mean, if I could, I would just live in the country.
Do
It's
it.
nothing. I mean, the fresh air,
It's so nice.
the
So good
peace.
for your body.
Hmm.
Getting out of the
So
city and grounding yourself and being barefoot in the dirt and absorbing those negative ions and being in the sun and all these things. These are all things that are contributing to us all being sick.
yeah, yeah, because I'm just now getting I'm getting into some more holistic things, and looking into it. Like I say, I've heard about the I guess the mushrooms or
Hmm.
microdosing and stuff like that. Heard about that. Plus just dealing and coping with ADHD and stuff like that, and
Which
PTSD.
microdosing helps a lot for too.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just, the things that I guess the pharmaceutical companies or those powers that be are able to keep things from us so they continue to profit from making the synthetic form of these natural items, herbs and stuff like that, that we can grow ourselves, so they can continue to make money. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, and it's not even that they're keeping the plants from us, they're keeping the knowledge from us. And that's
Yeah.
really the basis of it is there's been so many times in history that all of these historical herbalism doctors books, this is not the first time that our medical system and medical care in the history of humanity has gotten to the point where they're saving lives. But I
Hmm.
don't believe on any level that there was another period of time where they were utilizing as many chemicals to keep people sick through healthcare, which
Yeah,
is
that's
what
true.
they're doing now. Like, medicine has its place. Don't get me wrong. My father had
Yeah.
a heart transplant 2 years ago. Without his surgeons, we would have lost him. However, he also is now working, he's been working with his doctors and utilizing cannabis post transplant, and it's keeping him off of several medications that would normally be an absolute for someone who's had a heart transplant, and he's not having to take them. And we worked very hard to get his doctors to approve that and allow that. And he still has to be very careful because of the immunosuppressants that he's on, so that whatever he's consuming is good quality. There's no mold, things like that.
Hmm.
But his doctors are amazed at what the inclusion of cannabis in his treatment has done for his body post transplant.
Mm.
And these are some of the best heart surgeons in the nation. They're
Okay.
based down in San Diego, and they're just like all about it, and loving to see what they're learning from him. And that's amazing. Like, this is what we need to be doing. But because cannabis and other plant medicines have been listed as medical quackery
Hmm.
through the board of whoever decided that this was what we are doing now. um
Yeah. Yeah,
and
because
and so doctors risk losing their licenses, they risk going to jail, they risk fines, they risk all of these things for allowing people to take something that is not going to hurt them.
hmm
But
so
here, give them a pharmaceutical that causes 15 other side effects
yeah,
and maybe will help the one thing we're trying to fix. And then
but
give
the
them 5 more pills because of all those side effects, and 5 more because of those. And then, oh, by the way, we're in a pandemic. We have a pill shortage. Nobody gets pills.
exactly. That's true, and then they raise the price over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I'm just like, that is just crazy, but it's just like a machine for them. I guess that's why they call like a lot of this elite stuff like the machine, to where it's like for them to keep going and keep getting fueled and stuff like that. We're fueling that machine
That's amazing.
by, and it's like they're getting it on the front end and the back end.
They're getting
If
it
you
on
think
all
about
ends.
it,
They're
yeah.
getting it in the damn ear, man. Like, they're all holes.
It's just like they get it in farming. They wiped out the average farmer from being able to afford to grow. They
Yep.
started with this GMO crap, and I mean it's
They were
all
even telling
bananas.
people this year, don't raise backyard chickens because you might get sick. Like, what? Yeah, this year they put out a huge campaign when, because everybody was like post pandemic, all, my generation is like, we're moving to the country and we're getting chickens. And then they're like, don't raise backyard chickens. You could get salmonella. Well, unless you're going out, pulling it straight out the chicken's hole and licking it, I highly doubt that you're going to get salmonella. And if you're doing that, you probably deserve it. Like, that's a natural selection thing at that point, bro.
Oh my God, yes, I know. I'm just like, make that make sense,
It makes no sense.
seriously.
They're trying to take us away from what we're supposed to do, take us away from nature and earth and this system that we're all a part of, and fill us full of chemicals and colors and unnatural things. Like, this thought process that we have to bathe every single day with these harsh chemicals and strip our body down of all of our oil because you might slightly smell like a human. I'm not talking like it's been 2 weeks, bro. Like, are you okay? I'm talking like a couple of days. And then putting all these soaps on parts of our bodies that should not be getting soaps. And then we're like, why are we sick?
Oh, wow. Yes.
We're absorbing it from everything. We're absorbing it in the air. We're absorbing it through our shampoos. We're absorbing it through our soaps, our water, our food, everything. And then what happens? Where do we go when we get sick? We go to the doctor.
That's right. That's right.
What does the doctor do? He gives pills. Who controls the pills? The big pharmaceutical companies. Who do the pharmaceutical companies control? Fucking every politician.
Everything. Every one of them.
Big circle of evil. And if you really step back and look at it, what they've done in just like 2 generations has completely wiped out our connection to this world.
Yeah, I can see that.
It took 2 generations for people to not know how to farm, how to even grow vegetables or herbs in their yard, for us to be completely reliant on technology, power, everything they give us. Prior to the 1950s, you would still go to local farmers. You still had your milk delivered. You had your eggs delivered from the local farmers. This was not anything that like the modern grocery store. I believe the first one started sometime in the 1960s. And now that's what we rely on. And then when things like the pandemic happened, nobody could get food. Nobody could get what they needed because we're completely reliant on this one source that's all controlled by the same group of people. Who was it? Rockefeller said, like, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. And then here we are.
We're stuck because I know that I think the power had went out. Everything had went black over here at the house, and including the phone. We didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God. And I used to always be prepared, have everything ready, have stocked up, backed up, flashlight ready, because that doomsday package has always been on go. It's always been on go. But, lately I let my guard down. But then I realized with things going on the way it is now, we need to make sure that we, get our supplies together.
I mean, the coordinates to my property. You guys are always welcome.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because I mean, if you go back and you just start looking at what's going on now, it's like, okay, I know it's like, well, there's a war going on across the pond. Why should we even worry about cannabis? Why should we worry about this? We need to worry about trying to live. But people have to realize too, if cannabis was free, just try it. You never know what type of peace it may bring across the land, so that it'll open up. I mean, even though I say this all the time, cannabis is not for everybody. It's not for everybody. But, cannabis, I know what cannabis did for me, outside of, I'm grateful for the dispensaries that's here in Georgia. But we need more. We need more than just the THC oil. We need more. We need the flower too. We need all of that, because outside of that tincture, the tincture is, it's pretty good. It's, you just got to get used to it. It's just like a clean feeling type thing.
Yeah.
However, it's missing something. I mean, it doesn't have everything.
Yeah, I don't think it's full spectrum, from my understanding. For one thing, is you're missing the entire cannabinoid profile that actually gives you that relief. And, I think that cannabis is for everyone, because there's so much more to cannabis than the intoxicating side effects. Juicing fan leaves, utilizing the stalks, utilizing all of these things can be used, including hemp and CBD, because it's all the same thing. They just tell you it's not. It is.
So you're saying basically cannabis. So basically you're saying cannabis is good for everybody. It just depends on how you process or how you ingest. Because basically, if a person who experiences psychosis or something from cannabis, are you saying that if they eat the cannabis, it's a different effect? Or I'm not talking about like edibles that has been decarbed or anything like that. Just say, for instance, just you go pick it and pluck it and put it in the salad.
I mean,
Ralph
for somebody who's experienced psychosis, the fan leaves, trying the fan leaves for overall health to kind of get your body into homeostasis.
Okay.
And finding a terpene profile that works positively for you. So in the same way that pharmaceuticals, not every pharmaceutical is right for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis is the same way. So not every terpene profile or cannabinoid profile is going to be right for everybody. So sativa versus indica doesn't exist. The only difference between sativa and indica is the amount of time it takes for the plant to flower and the size of those leaves. That's the only difference. That euphoric feeling of sativa, indica is not what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Plants that are in the sativa growing style, for example, they will have more similar terpene profiles. So majority of them will give you that more upper euphoric feeling, whereas the indica plants have other terpene profiles with like linalool and pinene and all these different things in them that will give you that more sedative full body high. However, when you have all of the other cannabinoids in it, that's when you get that entourage effect, that full body high and relief, not even just high, but relief.
Yeah.
And for people who have really heavy pain levels, some are going to need higher levels of CBN versus THC.
Yeah.
Other people are going to need higher levels of CBD. Some people can have no THC. But my biggest issue with the industry right now is this push to have the highest THC content. That is fucking GMO of weed. Kiss my ass, change my mind. It is. Because it's like I need to take a multivitamin because I'm depleted on a bunch of minerals. And so all I'm going to do is take iron.
Okay.
And then, why am I sick? Well, sir or man, you're only focusing on one molecule in the overall spectrum of what you need to be consuming. So we really don't know enough about the plant on a scientific level, as far as studies go, to know what cannabinoids are good standalone cannabinoids and what cannabinoids have to work in conjunction with the entire plant in order for them to properly be absorbed and delivered into our systems. We don't know that we're not already consuming it wrong. Like maybe we should be mixing the fan leaves with the flower and consuming it that way. And that would give us this completely different experience, to where we're getting high on a level that we never knew. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being high. I think that there's a stigma around feeling good. And so people put this, because they've been taught the war on drugs and cannabis is the devil's lettuce. It's that jazz cabbage, blah, blah, they don't understand that there really is not anything wrong with, as a human being, feeling good.
That's true.
Animals in the wild will literally seek out fermented fruits on trees, eating deer shit after they've processed toxic berries so that they can hallucinate, getting drunk off of fermented fruit. How many times have you seen videos of like bears that they like find in the woods and it's just like laid out? Like, what is wrong with feeling good?
I need to write this down.
We are the human species and we should feel good, but we've been taught to believe that feeling good means that you're addicted, you're wrong, and you're all of these things. And don't get me wrong, like anything can become an issue. Anything can become an addiction or an obsession. And not everyone's body chemistry is going to react the same way. But that's where we need to have that education of understanding plants, understanding cannabis, understanding how you can add other herbs in with your cannabis that will give you not only medicinal effects, because there's a slew of natural plants that will get you intoxicated that are completely legal, and you can buy them as teas. I mean, when you drink chamomile tea, you know that you that is a form of intoxication when you relax.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I guess it's kind of like a stimulant. Caffeine is a stimulant.
Yeah, caffeine. So, that's a form of intoxication. It's a psychotropic intoxication versus a psychoactive intoxication. But it's all a style of intoxication within your system, because you're taking it from where it was into this new state, and you're responding that, and your body's responding as such. So if we had that education, if we had that understanding, and we stopped trying to freaking play God and create these just like genetically modified super buds and focus on one cannabinoid and stop being so stubborn, like,
give it
just
all to
because
me.
some dude when you were 17 told you that the best way to grow was indoor with a bunch of chemicals does not mean he really knew what he was talking about. My grandma used to smoke cigarettes with the windows up, and they didn't think anybody would get sick.
God, yes.
You
No
know?
seat belts, a metal
No
dashboard, and all.
seatbelts. 5 kids packed in the back of my great uncle's freaking Volkswagen, and my Aunt Ruby's in there just like smoking cigarettes with the windows up. But at that time, you could smoke cigarettes in hospitals.
Exactly, in the waiting
Women were told
room.
that you could drink through pregnancy.
Yeah, that was
When I
encouraged.
had my daughter 20 years ago, I had my daughter. They had me so doped up on Dilaudid while I was in labor. And that was just 20 years ago. That once they gave me the epidural, I was tossed. I was tossed, and I was just like, this is the best thing ever. We should have an epidural party, because I was just like super fucked up from all of the Dilaudid that they had been shooting me up with for hours and hours and hours. So,
oh wow. Yeah, I was just reading this comment right here. It said, my body processed cannabis better than grandmother's mac and cheese, and I love that stuff.
I don't do dairy well.
And see, that's another thing.
But I don't do it.
But the thing about it is, that's the trip. You mentioned dairy. Dairy is still on the market. Sugar is still on the market.
Well,
but why can't cannabis be on the market?
Here's the thing. The stuff that we have on the market, because of the way that the government has stepped in and done what they've done, is not a natural form of any of it. You're not allowed to drink raw milk. Okay. First of all, for how many generations and eons have we been drinking raw milk?
I don't know. I never drank milk.
Long time. And I don't know if you've ever tried raw milk.
Nope.
But as someone who cannot consume processed dairy, I can drink raw milk, which tastes amazing, by the way. I can drink raw milk and have no issues.
Yeah, I never been a milk fan in all of my life.
I'm not a big milk fan either.
Yeah, because I think I might have had like a little spurt when I was a kid. Like, I was just like, hey, I like milk. But then it's like, ugh. When I realized what milk was, and I was like, nah, I don't think I want milk anymore. But yeah, I think milk and sugar and a lot of people.
Sugar's not bad for you. The bleached processed sugar that we have available to us, that's what's bad. Flour and gluten and carbs, those are not bad for you. But the bleached processed flour products that are used as the basis of all of our breads and our desserts, that's what's bad for you. Yeah. All of these things that are told that this is what we have to eat, those are the things that are actually bad for you. Natural sugars through fruit, natural sugars through carbs, proteins through either animals or fish or vegetables or good natural beans and fruits, whatever it is that your body craves, or your like local indigenous areas consume. I mean, that's why these people that live like in the middle of the jungle and these century old indigenous tribes with like no medical care, no outsider, people coming in from the outside, they live to be like 110, 120 years old. And people are like, how are they living so long? Well, because they're not consuming all this crap.
Yeah, and this air, this air quality, because I noticed like doing lockdown, I'll just say lockdown, doing lockdown, so I can at least try and boost this algorithm outside of saying cannabis. But I noticed how it was like a reset. It was fresh. I mean, nobody was moving. It was so peaceful just to go outside. The sky was so blue.
Did you see what happened in, I believe it was like Nepal and Italy? Like for the first time, you could see Mount Fuji. No fog, no nothing. You could see everything. And it literally only took the earth, 2 weeks of us being on lockdown before that started to happen? The earth will heal itself.
I can believe that. But
But we have to stop trying to control it.
yeah.
And we need to learn how to live and work within it the way all other creatures do.
Yeah.
And like we would all live longer, yeah, I don't think everyone would live longer. That's the process of natural selection. That is the process of life and life
Yeah.
cycles. And if medicine was used properly and for good and not for profit, it could be a totally different world for us.
It
But I
could.
mean, the United States in particular has set its people up to be sick and be reliant on the government.
I can believe that.
And
I
I
can
mean, there are
believe
so
that.
many products and ingredients that are that legal in the United States, but are illegal everywhere else in the world.
Yeah. And just like paraquat, I know for sure because paraquat is that it's an herbicide
Mm-hmm.
that you actually have to have a special license to have here in the United States. That's a trip. Other countries don't. It's banned in so many other countries. I think it's like only a few countries that allow paraquat, and the United States happens to be one.
Of
I
course we
read,
are.
and
Same
it's
thing with
like,
red dyes.
huh?
Red dyes in our foods and medicine. We are one of the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
countries that allow that.
Yeah, just like I don't know who was telling me that their grandson could, my cousin's grandson was over in Germany and he could eat ice cream over there, but over here he can't eat it.
No, I mean, look at the way
So
that the animals are held and housed and mistreated, and then the food, the meat and or the drinks are processed, the all of these things, and on top of the conditions just being complete crap, um, the emotional connection between what those animals are going through and putting out in mass quantities for Americans to consume, there is a connection there, and we are going to feed and fill off of those energies. And if you're
mhm.
being like fed food where this animal went through trauma, that's going to roll over into
Mm,
your body, into your soul. We get sausage from a local guy. He's a friend of ours out here. He's got a homestead. They
mhm.
treat their pigs and wonderfully. You can literally taste the happiness in
Okay,
that meat when you eat it.
I can understand.
And
Yeah,
like,
I can understand.
yeah, I don't feel shameful after I consume the meat that I get from the local farmers here, the ones that I know how they process their animals, because I know that these animals were taken well taken care of, and now they're
Mhm.
being used to give back to the community, and they've had babies and all these things, and then now those
The
babies are going to
circle of
continue the
life.
process, and it's part of the cycle of life,
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be this like horrific
yeah.
disgusting industry that it is based on who can make the biggest amount of profit for the least amount of investment.
I know it because I read horror stories. I know when I was on the road, I used to listen to some of the horror stories of some of the. I'm not going to say their names because I know it's up in North Carolina. They have this big pig processing right outside of High Point, North Carolina. I know this pig processing place and the condition of their hogs that they keep them in these small quarters. And I know that hogs are pretty much they're real smart. They're smarter than a dog.
Yeah, I've got two of them. I've got two Vietnamese potbelly pigs, and they are the weirdest dogs I've ever owned.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I mean. I mean, if you
It's
just think
heartbreaking.
about it, I know it because I don't know. I know I do believe in reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And after I read that book, Many Lives, Many Masters, that particular book changed my whole insight
Yeah.
on life and death and crossing over that type of thing. And I had a different understanding for everything because I'm just looking at how we treat certain items, how we treat each other, how we treat the animals. Because I look at animals different. Because I used to not like cats, but I find myself talking to cats now.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
they're special. Them bitches are not from this realm.
okay, okay. So they're like from the other side of the earth. If you believe in the flat
Yeah,
earth, they're from the
yeah.
other side, kind of
They're
like,
coming from another realm, and I think, in my opinion, I think it's an ancestor or a familiar or a guardian of some kind. Cats are just special. Like, I
wow.
love cats. I love all
Oh, wow.
animals. I've got a lot, but
Yeah.
I can never turn down a cat, and I never go out searching for a cat. They always find me.
Oh, wow. I guess that's just about it. Oh, but you know what? I guess we had a good conversation, but so what do you think about the upcoming Georgia? Because I know that currently our nonprofit we talked with a couple of legislators about upcoming legislation for the medical cannabis and protection for the medical cannabis patient,
Mhm.
and also possibly adding flower to the registry,
Yeah,
but it's just a matter about getting the right one to, present it,
yeah,
because everybody's so afraid. It's like they say it's the Sheriff's Association that's holding this whole situation back, which we go back to that video if I had it, which I probably posted later
yeah,
about the reason why they didn't
yeah.
want to
Why are
let
they going to give up their biggest money making ticket for small offense
yeah.
crimes?
Like, replace it with somebody else, replace it with crooked politicians,
Yeah,
replace it with those,
or like, let's focus on finding rehabilitation and help for this
Yeah,
fucking uh fentanyl crisis and all these
exactly.
other things that are out there. I don't know. Let's focus on homelessness and rehabilitation
Yes.
or affordable housing or
Yeah,
just, doing what you guys signed up to do by protecting and serving and not looking at your community as criminals.
yeah, yeah, and it is so sad, It's sad. It's just one thing that we just have to realize that the only way we'll be able to change this is if we come out in numbers
Yeah.
and apply the pressure to these people, apply the pressure to these candidates that are actually running for office this year.
Yeah.
There are a lot of folks up for re-election this year. And if we apply the pressure so that we're able to let them know that we are the constituents, you can go ahead and the companies only get one vote. They only get one vote, but then you have the rest of the people who have to come out to vote. Just because you got the pretty signs and all this other stuff. Look, I'm going to tell each and every one of you all out there, look for the ones who don't have a whole bunch of signs. Who don't
Yeah.
hold, you go back and review who actually donated to that campaign. See who actually donated large amounts versus small amounts to that campaign. You can go to the SOS website to see that. So you can see who really and truly is controlling that candidate. So we need to apply the pressure, because if we
Yeah.
apply the pressure to these folks, that's how we're going to get change. It's a lot of Republicans that they say that the Republicans are holding back this cannabis right now. But if you think about a lot of these Republicans, I say put the bill on the gambling bill. So what I've seen in the legislation so far, I say go ahead. Okay, fine, cool. Y'all want gambling? Cool. We want flour. Let's go ahead and
Right.
put the flour on the gambling bill. Y'all done
Right.
had that gambling bill up there for the longest. Put flour on it. Do
Yeah.
you realize y'all want the registry to be raised here in Georgia? How are you going to raise? People call us all the time. Hey, are y'all the dispensary? Do y'all have flour, this and that? And I have to tell them, no, we're not a dispensary, first of all, but no, Georgia doesn't have a flour. But what is that THC oil going to do for me? This and that. It's like, look, ain't nothing I can tell you except for to go over here to this CBD store to get the THCA to go ahead and get the
Yeah.
feeling that you may want so that you can get the full feel. But they need to add flour. They
They do.
need to work together.
They do. And not just because patients want that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been working with an organization out here that facilitates doctor's appointments for the medical cards called Miracle
Mm-hmm.
Leaf.
Okay.
And so I've been working directly with the patients. And that is one of the biggest things and biggest deterrents is that people want access to flour. And even with the medical card, that doesn't protect you
Mm-hmm.
for having flour. Even if you
Mm-hmm.
went to another legal state and legally purchased the flour with your medical card, it does not protect you in Georgia.
Yeah.
So, as far as I'm concerned, it's all CBD. And I'll die on that.
Yeah, THCA, however, but with
But,
all these labs popping up.
well, not only that, there's the labs and they can test it. But on top of that, a lot of people just on a biological level, um, cannot consume edibles. So
Yes,
if your
sir.
liver doesn't contain the proper enzyme to convert and activate the THC, within your system, you're not going to feel the effects medicinally or physically that you need to feel in order to get that relief. So that is a form of discrimination, for one thing.
Yes, it is.
And the inhalation products need to be available. They need to be available, because not only do you people not be able to consume, but for people who need that instant relief,
Exactly.
it needs to happen. They have fast relieving pain medications that will hit you in a couple of minutes. Why can't we have a fast relief medication when it comes to the flower?
Exactly. Because it's like, it's not, I understand cannabis is a one size fit all, but you got to determine which size you need to put on, because do you need to put on the transdermal side? Do you need to put on the top? Well, that's the transdermal. Do you need to put on the edible,
better, edible,
sublingual, all that? Which one fits best?
Let's make suppositories available.
Exactly. It does. Everybody's body doesn't process it the same. However, this plant can help a lot of people, because I know I need all forms. I need topicals, I need sublingual, I need inhalation. I need all of them.
Plus and a big whopping dose of CBD to start the day out.
Yeah. Because it's like to balance everything out. No, I just don't operate on THC alone. I need the whole process. And see, what I've been having to do here lately is, okay, yes, I went to the dispensary, but the dispensary is expensive for the average person. We took advantage of the dispensary that time when it was BOGO, but if both me and my wife, if we had paid the price of what we bought, it would have been almost $1,000. Now, what patient can actually afford that? If most doctor exams you have to pay out of pocket, and then you have to get back and forth to your regular doctors,
pick up your card, and then you have to go to the dispensary and pick up products that are ranging from $25 to $100 for 10 to 15 doses. Like, I understand this is a new market, and I understand that this is new access, so dispensaries and companies can do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, the only people that hurts is the patients.
Exactly. And what do they have?
So what that does is that drives patients back to the traditional market.
Exactly. Where's
if you
better?
had to choose between, dropping $100 to get yourself 2 small doses of the medicine at a dispensary so that you're in compliance, or going to the person you've been going to forever and dropping that same 100 and getting yourself enough medicine for a month.
Exactly. To where you can make it.
So this becomes an access issue, and that ultimately falls back on the legislators, because they're not allowing enough access for patients to keep the traditional market from thriving.
Yeah, I think they need to listen to the experts. They actually need to listen to the experts and not the ones who are against cannabis. Because I know going down there, I have to control my temper because to actually listen to it's just one guy that always testifies. I forgot who he is, but he always comes down there and testifies about cannabis is this, cannabis is that. My thing is, cannabis is a choice whether you choose to use it or you don't. If it's on the market, fine, and you think it's wrong, don't use it.
Right. Right.
I mean, I know what cannabis did for me, and if you see the results of the children who've benefited from this, from the person, the autistic young child to benefit from this, the child who used to have
cancer
exactly all in one. But I bought a pack of the I guess the lozenges or whatever, $60 for 30. Can you tell me $60 for 30? That's a 1-to-1, 1,200 milligram, 1-to-1. That's 1-to-1 CBD, THC, or whatever. For 30 lozenges for $60. Can you imagine? 30. So you telling me I'm supposed to take this one lozenge
one a day,
knowing
spending $120 because you can't use your insurance to cover these
exactly. And it's like that 5% level, which you're going to use more because your body is accustomed to a higher dose from the traditional market, and so you're just stuck.
Well,
What do
and
you
even
do?
for new consumers, some people are just going to take a higher dose.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It just
if it's not a full spectrum extract that they're using for
uh-huh.
that batch oil, they're going to have to take higher doses because they're not getting that full entourage effect of the relief. So it's almost like the way legislation is written is for the dispensaries to make top dollar and for the patients to, it's almost like they're setting it up the same way they set up pharmaceuticals, where the
That's
patients
what it
get
looks like.
reliant on it so that the
Mhm.
companies can continue to make money. And now, this is no knock at any company specifically. I understand this is a growing market and they're
Yeah.
working within the legislation that they were given. But when are they going to start listening to legislation that's needed by the people? Because I mean, you and I sit in on those cannabis commission meetings every time.
Yeah.
And not once have I seen them allow any kind of public comment.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, that was this one time when they had the open meeting, the first meeting that they did have where they allowed the public to come back in. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed it because I guess I read the invitation wrong. But one thing about the Georgia Cannabis Access Committee, they have the number there. They have the email there, but they don't respond. They don't answer. They don't answer the call. And I'm just trying to figure out why. Why don't they have access for a patient to get in touch with them? You can contact the Department of Health. You can contact the Georgia Medical Cannabis Society because that's what they've done. They
Yeah.
contacted the Georgia Medical Cannabis Society to where we get fussed at because we don't have the answers. We don't have the answers because when we're trying to get the answers, we can't get it because they're not answering the phone. I sent messages over and over, and I know you've sent messages
Mm-hmm.
over to the commission, and you get that automatic reply. Oh yeah, if it's about the card, just check the website.
Yeah.
This. No response.
No response.
Okay, which is a trip. Now, last year, House Bill 196 is the one that Chairman Powell had presented for the disclosure, whatever, so that they can go ahead, the transparency of to get transparency, to find out, to get the applications and stuff like that. That's what I'm just wondering. When it comes to getting an open records request to find out how many times patients have contacted the Georgia Cannabis Access Committee and no answer, who do they answer to? Because before with that particular bill, they were in, I don't know if it was House Bill 452 that they had to go to the agriculture, but regardless, who do they answer to?
Yeah. Who's overseeing this program, or are they just being
Mm-hmm.
left to their own devices?
Mm-hmm.
And with the way that pharmacy bill went down and all of these things, it's almost like they don't have any kind of even like
Oversight or anything.
oversight or committee or anything, because anybody, like, I understand that states have a right to govern their own laws,
Mm-hmm.
but they should have thought about the fact that to be a pharmacy or a doctor who writes prescriptions, you have to be federally registered to obtain those medications and prescribe them. So with cannabis still being a federally Schedule 1 substance, why did they think that they could just announce that pharmacies could now carry the medicine? And not think that the federal government was going to step in and say, no, you can't, because just like alcohol, you can't have cannabis and alcohol in the same building. You cannot sell weed and booze
I
in
didn't
the
know
same
that.
building,
I didn't know
because
that.
it's two completely different licenses that, because of federal regulation,
Mm-hmm.
cannot exist in the same space.
Oh, wow. But, I'm going to tell you, now that you said that about the pharmacies and stuff like that, one thing that I am wondering, I wonder, are they using us as bait or just to get attention? I'm just wondering, as far as like, okay,
I
did they approve the pharmacies just to say, hey, nana boo boo, we Georgia, we're going to do what we want to do,
I
kind of thing.
think that they jumped the gun. I think it's a phenomenal idea. And if they can pull it off, oh my God, access.
Yeah, I'm for it.
However,
Yeah.
they jumped the gun on making the announcement. They
Okay.
jumped the gun on letting patients know that this was available. They jumped the gun on signing up pharmacies before submitting and announcing this bill and waiting to see if the feds were going to reach out and say, hey guys, you can't do this, or even just understanding federal law versus state law, which I'm pretty sure is their job. And knowing that, okay, even as a state that can govern our own laws, this is a federally registered industry, so that's not going to work. So how can we make this work where there's more patient access? How can we make this to where there's more dispensaries available? There's more availability of affordable products. Let's maybe not focus on the pharmacies, which would be a money thing for the state, because they're going to charge the pharmacies to register and get trained and all that crap.
Okay.
Let's put together a compassionate care program so low-income people can get free medicine. So veterans can get free medicine.
Exactly.
Let's focus on those things instead of trying to focus on these money grabs on a state level that are just going to make these people a bunch of money and ultimately fall on the patients, that they're going to be the ones that are going to be taking the brunt of the legalities, the taxes, the cost, all of it. And
I get that.
Do our job. Do your jobs. They get paid a lot of money to do their jobs, so they should be doing them.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought about something else too when you were talking. I thought about, well, maybe this is the first time that Georgia said, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and be ready, so we ain't gotta get ready, kind of thing. Maybe they was like, you know what, we're gonna make sure we caught wind that they're gonna deschedule cannabis, so we're gonna make sure we got the measures all together so that we can go ahead and just get the ball rolling. So we're going to be ready, but we want to be the first to announce that we have them in pharmacy,
But if that were the case, again, do your homework. They've been talking about rescheduling and descheduling on a federal level for years. And it's this back and forth. And now, granted, they do have this new report and suggestion from the Department of Public Health, or Health of Human Services, but they're going to drag their feet, because not only do they need to figure out how they can capitalize off of this the best and tax it the best, you know what kind of upheaval that's going to have for the prison system if they federally deschedule this? They're going to have to let people out of prison. They're going to have to potentially pay arrears and reimbursements to people for being, in a prison system when they didn't need to be. There's going to be a lot that goes with that. And then at that point, the states can either choose to allow these medicines in the pharmacies, or the pharmacies can just do it. It's not going to take state approval to be a federally registered pharmacy that carries federally legal products. And then again, that just opens up the big pharma thing when it comes to, federal rescheduling. So it really isn't going to matter if the state wants to have pharmacy available, pharmacies carry it, because once it's federally descheduled, they can do it either way, unless the state puts a stop to it. That's really one of the only things they could potentially do, is put a stop to it. But if this is a federally legalized program and a federally registered pharmacy or doctor chooses to work with that medicine, it's the same way that doctors can set up ketamine clinics, where ketamine is still illegal on a recreational level, but there's a ketamine clinic in Atlanta. And because it's a doctor, they can do it whether the state says they want to or not.
Wow. And when you were talking about the cannabis and stuff like that, I was thinking like, oh my God, it just left my head just that quickly. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I can't believe it left my head just that quickly. Just about, you know how it is when you sit back and you just wait.
Yeah,
it's like,
you
okay,
shouldn't have leaned forward.
I said, I should have wrote that thought down. But as I'm looking at, because I'm pretty sure if they leave it up to the states to decide whether or not I got it. If they say we have to repay all of these, the recently incarcerated, anything back, then it should come from all of the tax, because the cannabis companies, regardless of it's not being federally legal, they're still having to pay taxes and a whole
Mhm.
lot of taxes. They
Whole lot.
should have to pay. And not just that, you have all these MSOs. If they made a certain amount of money or whatever, then part of whatever they, a portion of that, they shouldn't mind being part of the reparation to those who have recently been incarcerated. So the money is there.
Yeah.
The money is there. You think about this surplus of money that's there in Colorado, for the cannabis, and how quickly they're making money. And so regardless, that's why I don't want cannabis legalized. I don't want it legalized. I want it decriminalized so that it does not close out the traditional market.
I want it descheduled so anybody can
Yeah.
grow it in their house.
Yeah.
You want to get rid
Yeah.
of the traditional market?
Yeah.
Fucking deschedule it.
Gotcha.
There's no need for this underground traditional market because you can walk across the street to Granny Jenny's house and just
get
pick
it.
them off in her front yard, and then she's going to yell at you because you pulled it too early. And then that's how it'll be. You want to get rid of the traditional market. You want to get rid of the crime. You want to get rid of all this. I don't see people out there fucking with an underground market of cilantro and tomatoes.
Not everybody's gonna want to grow, and not everybody's gonna want to consume because alcohol is legal.
Place for an industry, the same way there's a place for farmers markets. Just because the grocery store exists doesn't mean that small farmers still don't set up every Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too back to that Livy versus the United States, where the I think when he was trying to cross over from Mexico and he had cannabis in his hand or whatever, and they said it's this cannabis and it invaded his Fourth Amendment right because it didn't have a stamp or something on it. So that's basically what's going to happen with this legal market. So we're going to be back in that same cycle. You know what I mean? So yeah, I get that the descheduling, all the way. Just it's a herb. It's treat it like what it is, because I would prefer to go to a market. I would prefer to go to my neighbor to know, okay, hey, he only uses this particular type of soil and he uses natural herbs and stuff like that. I would rather go to my local farmer, just like I try my best to support small businesses right now. So, but yeah,
because even current testing on the market, how do we really know if that's proper testing? Because did you read the article about California just shut down like almost all of the testing labs because of falsified documents, and there's only like 3 that are allowed to be open now.
Oh wow!
It might be more than 3. It's just a handful of testing facilities in the state of California that are going to be allowed to operate going forward because of falsified test results.
And it just makes you know about the calibration of these machines and stuff like that. It makes you wonder who determines what is.
Yeah.
So just because you say, hey, this is the machine to determine how much THC, THCA, THCV, THC, all these other cannabinoids that's in this plant, how can you determine? And then how long did it sit on the shelf before they actually tested? I don't know. What is that? Chromatography, a chromatome, one of those chromes or whatever, just to distinguish whether or not the shelf life and how the cannabinoids develop. But that's on THC with Book Show. I mean, that's her stuff.
When you send out your batch test, it's before it's even processed and cured. Then you're processing and curing the rest of it that's not being tested. It's getting put into packaging. You don't know how it's being handled once it's received by the storefront. You don't know if it's being opened. All of these things, if it's got proper humidity storage, if the packaging is not defective, if there's too much light, too much heat, all of these things that can develop mold, it can develop higher levels of other cannabinoids. It can process it. It can change the structure of the trichomes. It can melt the trichomes off. You could just end up with, like, even with THCA, if they don't have proper testing and proper handling procedures at your local CBD shop, it will test higher than the legal limit, because again, CBD hemp and cannabis sativa, as they classify it, are all the same fucking thing. There's 2 different varieties of the same plant.
It's just like it's just a different
species. Like swamp bamboo versus the big bamboo. It's all bamboo. It just grows different.
It's like a Homo sapien, and I get you. But so I guess we can go ahead on and get ready to. wow, we can go on and on, but
I know.
I know, like I say, I know
It's
we
like our
gotta
phone
get up
calls.
out. Yeah. So, but yeah, right. Let me go ahead and get this going so I forget. All right. All right. All right. And that brings us all to the end of today's ride with Yo Rants Oversized Load. It's been an absolute pleasure with us. Before we close, could you share with our listeners about any upcoming events you have?
Yeah, definitely. We're really excited. I'm working with my partner on creating a big high holiday celebration on 420 weekend. It's going to be the 19th, 20th, and 21st here in Macon, Georgia. We are putting together a hemp cup for local hemp farmers and brands, and to just offer some education. We'll have educational talks, a bunch of different music, family friendly art, celebration, community murals, all kinds of good stuff. We've got a lot of things in the works. So, follow me on send the gals my imaging as soon as it's ready to drop, and come on down to Macon. We're trying to make this an annual huge massive festival that just normalizes the cannabis community. It's not going to be a huge smoke fest by any means, but it's going to be a way to break the stigma. I can't say that no one will be smoking there. It's, what you do in your own time with that CBD is not my business. But, it's not going to be a big stoner fest. It's going to be a family friendly, educational, break the stigma, good time. So definitely come out.
I mean, that sounds really, really, really nice. You know what I mean? I just know that, man, with all these decisions to make, oh my God. I can't wait to find out more, because I know they have I know they have events all over the place. So I'm just want to know one thing too. I think that's just about it. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure that I covered everything before I get out of here. So I did ask you everything. Okay.
I think so. I'm happy with the way this went.
Okay. So did the nervousness show?
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right. We're gonna get better with time. So, all right, you guys out there, stay connected with our journey. Follow me at Herbal Trucker, at Yo Rants 101, and be sure to follow the Cannabis Network on all social media platforms at Cannabis. Visit www.cannabis.com for more. Thanks for tuning in to Yo Rants Oversized Load. We're not just talking the talk. We're driving the conversation forward. Keep listening, stay engaged, and let's keep rolling through the stories that shape our world. Until next time, keep the wheels turning and the conversation flowing. All right. Hey. All right. I guess that's just about it. So we about to go ahead and close on out. Here we go. Let me find the thing. Yeah, I always get caught up with this, but here we go.